And today we're talking about a very sensitive issue, autism.
A child that is autistic is considered to be a special need child.
I think, again, Bimbo and Dolakbo, you see, when you say something is caused by a brain disorder, something to do with the brain, you know, that is associated with mental illness.
I know.
So parents too, exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Amazons.
Much for that. You guys are absolutely amazing. A round of applause for yourselves. And also for those of you at home, welcome. You are watching Amazons. So, sisters, we're here again today. And today we're talking about a very sensitive issue, autism. Autism is a group of developmental brain disorders that often makes it hard to communicate or relate with others. With autism, the different areas of the brain fail to work together. So autism is not a particular ailment, but a name for a group of conditions. Most people with autism will always have some trouble relating to others, but early diagnosis and treatments have helped more and more people who have autism reach their full potential. Autism tends to run in families, so experts think it may be something that you inherit. Scientists are trying to find out exactly which genes may be responsible for passing autism in families. Though there are statistics which try to prove that autism is on the increase, experts advise that parents must take their children for proper professional evaluation before they are declared autistic. Simply put, autism, they say, is generally misdiagnosed. With us in the studio, we have several guests who are going to talk about autism with us. But before we invite our guests, autism. You know, growing up, that's the thing. Because in Nigeria, I don't think we actually do any sort of diagnosis to find out if children are autistic or not. I think we just generally call all of them autistic. Growing up, we did have neighbors I thought were autistic. I can't be too sure because, of course, I'm not a doctor. But one thing I noticed about the family next door is they didn't do much with the children. They didn't send them to school because after a while, I think schools rejected them. So they just left them at home, which is what you will find operates within this country. A lot of them are not given a chance to reach their full potential. Aisha, what do you think?
I think for a child that is autistic, the signs would have been there from, you know, infancy. Some parents would say, my baby is very quiet. He or she doesn't make noise. It doesn't cry. You leave them alone. They are alone for a long period of time. That is a sign that, you know, children are meant to be animated, you know, even when they don't cry, you know, make squeaky noises, and when they are left alone for too long, they crave attention. For the society, I think it's because people are still not well educated about what autism is, that indeed autism can be helped, the people can be supported by the kind of support that you give to them in terms of not isolating them. You know, even though when they want to be isolated, be left alone, they should be encouraged to come out of such isolation. That is by making them socialize. You know, but we're saying now that even the people who are supposed to help with this process are also not finding it comfortable, you know, associating with autistic children.
Yeah, that one thing I have noticed is that a lot of people tend to hide these children.
Yeah.
They hide them like, you know what, oh, there's something really, really wrong and we don't want the world to see this. I know, I mean, come on, this is 2014. I know at one point in time, people used to think you had something to do with spiritual problems or whatnot, but I want to believe that we're more educated than that. And we realize that you need to give every single child deserves to reach their full potential.
But that's only in Nigeria, Bimbo, because...
Oh, no, we are talking about here.
You know, it's only in Nigeria. If you go abroad and you go to all the, you know, international countries and all that, a child that is autistic is considered to be a special need child. And from when they're young, like you said, do you understand? Either the midwife or somebody, the child counselor or somebody would pick this up and they would have sent them into an institution. They actually even go to homes now. There are homes for autistic children where they're specially looked after and helped to, and taught how to adapt and manage in the society.
I think, again, Bimbo and Dolapo, you see, when you say something is caused by a brain disorder, something to do with the brain, you know, that is associated with mental illness.
I know.
So
Nigerians
parents too, exactly. It is not mental illness in that sense. It is not brain disorder in that sense. It is brain disorder in the sense that this child is withdrawn. It is brain disorder that this child does. Exactly.
It's just a little challenge. Anyway, we also have experts in the studio who are going to come and talk about autism with us, because I think it's very important that we, as often as we can, educate people about autism. And for those of you watching today, it's going to be your turn next. Whatever you learn today, please make sure you pass it on to the next person. We're going to take a short break. We will be right back.
So you can have somebody who has Asperger's and he's a vice president of a company, and that's because he's the computer vice president or he's the calculus vice president. You would always find somewhere where an Asperger child would function excessively.
I have a 10-year-old, and when he was about, I think when he was about 4 or 5, he would write the B facing the other way, the P would face the other way.
Yes.
And, you know, the school were making me so nervous and scared that, you know, we had to take him to London. And as far as I was concerned, they were saying he was dyslexic. You know, and someone said, he's just an olodo, he doesn't want to read.
The first thing a parent needs to do is educate themselves. That's the very first thing you need to do. Educate yourself on what you're hearing is supposedly wrong with your child. And, you know, at the end of the day, I always say only a parent knows their child best. Doesn't matter how many years of experience in whatever field you're doing you think you have. When you first meet a child, the one person that knows that child best is their parent.
Welcome back. You are still watching Amazons, and today we are talking about autism. I hope everyone that listens today learns something, and because we insist that you learn something, we're bringing in 2 experts. Now, one of them is Miss Tokes Bakari, a behavior analyst. I believe the only one in Africa. A round of applause for her, please. A round of applause for our guests. Hi, welcome. It's supposed to be one after the other. I don't know why they pushed you.
Hi.
Thank you for coming.
Please sit.
Hi, thank you.
Please sit. So, we have in the studio Mrs. Helen Oshikoya, a certified autism expert, and Ms. Tokes Bakari, behavior analyst. Please, tell me, what exactly do you do? Break it down to, I mean, I have no idea. Because for a lot of us here, what you find is that we're not as educated as we should be about certain things. And one of such things is autism.
Basically, what we're going to tell you about is what we do. Primarily what we do, we're what they call investigators. And we go into schools and hospitals and investigate and make sure that children are not at risk of developing autism or any neurodevelopmental disorder, and then we put treatment plans into the process. So I am the clinical side, and then Tukumbo is the educational processor.
Okay. And how easy has that been?
Very.
It's been easier than you think. There have been a lot of children who clearly need services and who are coming to light. So although you grew up not knowing anybody, in schools today, a lot of children are exposed to, you know, a child with a developmental disorder like autism. So it's been difficult doing the screening
Legwork.
process, but once we do get the screening process done, we're finding it more and more easy to provide treatment services because so many children need it.
When you talk about treatment, I mean, I'm sure it would cost a lot in Nigeria to be able to, provide care for children with such disorder. Who pays for the treatment?
Mostly parents do. At the moment, parents have to fit the bill.
So there's no governmental funds set in place in Nigeria where you can take your child to and the government will pay for it, or a group or support or organization?
Well, what we're doing at the moment is that it's not as expensive as you think. The key is bring your child for developmental screening. If your child is developmentally screened as early as 1 month, up to the age of, say, literally till 5, we catch it on time. And anything that you catch on time is not as expensive to manage. At the moment, we're working with the Lagos State Hospital. We're going to start on Friday, whereby we are going to be actually developmentally evaluating children who have been detected by the hospital. So we will identify services which the children would require so that people who really can't afford to do it privately can be given the opportunity to have it done by the hospital, state hospital. We do have some private hospitals that we're working with at the moment as well.
When you go to schools for these investigations, what signs do you look for? What tells you that perhaps this is a case that is special, that requires further investigation?
Okay, at the moment what we have a school health policy, school health program. So we go into schools and we check to make sure children are developing physically and mentally well. So the physical check will involve us doing ear screening, eye screening, developmental screening, screening for scoliosis. Anything physically that would prevent a child from learning is done. Then we do the mental screening. I'm a certified clinical assessor, so I can order clinical assessments. We go in and then we actually target the areas we're looking for. So we would concentrate on things like speech and language. We will concentrate on things like dyslexia or indicators for learning. It depends on the age of the child. Will determine what tests that I would run. Once the child is identified as having a problem, then the school would call the parent and then we would discuss and then Tokumba will take over.
So Tokumba, how many schools are you working with now?
At the moment, it's quite a varied number of schools because we work with the individual children primarily. So the children can be in all different schools. So although I might be working with a child in one particular school, I'm not necessarily working with all of the children who need services in that school. So it's still very much individualized. There are two schools on the mainland and
in total we have 30 schools.
30 schools that
Yes.
you're working with.
30 schools
that
under
we
our
have
school health.
within.
And then we have specifically learning units in other schools. So for instance, say this school in Victoria Island, if we pick up 5 or 6 children in that particular school, then we would request for the school to have a learning support unit whereby they would bring 2 teachers and we would train extensively, and then Tokumba will monitor the progress of the children and the teachers actually.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is it in Nigeria?
It's the same as it is everywhere else in the world.
Really?
The difference is that because the treatment services are so unavailable here, that's what makes it on the 10 scale of things. But in terms of the prevalence of autism compared to the rest of the world, it's the same.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the thing about it is that I've always said that, autism is just one of 250 neurodevelopmental delays. So even though we're concentrating on autism because that's what you think is what people don't understand, but there are so many other things that we're looking for. So many.
Please educate us, such as?
Well, we have
Pervasive
developmental disorders, we have child disintegration disorders, we have Asperger's and syndrome.
What is that?
Asperger's. Asperger's is one of the PDDs, which is actually, some people say the brighter autistic child, because at the end of the day, cognitive functioning is high, social emotion is not high, but the child is able to function appropriately with proper intervention processes. So you'll find out that most children who have Asperger's, by the time they're adults, they no longer meet the criteria of autism.
Okay, because of the help.
Because of the
and
help
care.
and because of the cognitive
because of the way the
ability. So they're
disorder is.
able to camouflage a lot of the retardation which comes with the disease, with the disorder, and do other functional things in life. So you can have somebody who has Asperger's and he's a vice president of a company, and that's because he's the computer vice president or he's the calculus vice president. You would always find somewhere where an Asperger child would function excessively.
So they have one talent?
No, it depends on which one you find.
The question I want to ask really is, if you go to schools and you discover these special needs children, do they, the process for educating them, is it at the same pace up until the time you discover them as with other normal children?
No, so you're asking, is the process the same up until when we discover them? Well, yes, at the moment, when we go into a school, they're pretty much having to do whatever they can with the child because they don't have the resources to take care of the child and provide the appropriate education for the child. So yeah, they're trying to make them do everything the rest of the class is doing, and they're pretty much just scrapping around for help. When we do go in and then identify these children as needing specific education, then we realize that no, you have to take it at a much more structured pace. You know, you need structured teaching processes in place for them. They need, and it really just depends on the individual child, how quickly they will move with the class or, you know, with their learning.
So have you had any reason, have you had any children, any of those that you have discovered really blossom, you know, with this kind of support?
Oh yes, yeah. I mean we have autistic children that are reading. We have Down syndrome children that are walking before they're 5. I mean they bring them to us being carried, and within a year they're actually running. You know, so it's not an issue of not being able to do well. It's an issue of how soon are you going to bring your child for us to do something about it.
So the reaction of the parents is also a factor that could be very important in the treatment for these children. How are the parents reacting?
It's mixed messages.
It's mixed messages.
It's often quite difficult to get through to parents because, you know, particularly if a child is kind of 5 years old, you know, you've lived with your child, your baby, for these 5 years, and you've interacted with them in a certain way, and you have your relationship with them. So it's very difficult to, you know, come in as a professional, and accept the, you know, changes that you're going to have to make as a parent. So it's mixed messages, but the good news is that most of the time, these parents want it, so they want the help. In fact, all of the time, we're not imposing any help on any of these children. They're coming to us. So they know that there's something they need to do, and they want to be able to do the right thing for their child. So as difficult as it is for them to accept, they're still making the right steps.
And another thing is that, you know, everybody keeps on talking about special needs children, special needs children. Every child is a special need candidate, every child. So because your child is doing well today, doesn't mean that he's not going to do well tomorrow. The issue is that every child must be given the opportunity to be on a special needs program if they require it. And I think that's the attitude everyone should take. And we also are advocates that all teachers should be trained on special education. And now with the ABA treatment program, I've come to realize that all teachers actually do need to be trained on ABA as well. I was into the more clinical side of things and, you know, okay, I've diagnosed your child, what's going to happen next? And we'll be in, you can do this, can do that. But at the end of the day, I was probably not telling all the truth because resources have been so limited. But with Tokumba coming on, all our children on ABA programs, and it's just amazing how they're just excelling. Some of the children that, you know, couldn't talk, I mean, it's not as if they're carrying on conversations, but their parents are like, he said this to me, he said that to me. And that's because the treatment is universal. It addresses every part of what the child needs, not like if your child is not talking, you just get speech therapy and it ends like that. No, with ABA, he does speech, he does motor skills. It's just a better treatment
Can I ask you, is dyslexia, okay, word blindness and Are they the same? Are those signs of a child going to be autistic? No. So they're completely
No.
Separate, yeah.
Those
they're completely
are,
separate.
No. Dyslexia and word blindness, those are specific learning disabilities, right? Autism is a learning disorder. So it is detected from development. It is something that comes about through the developmental process of the child. But with specific learning disabilities, it comes about as an educational mishap, in the sense that if a child doesn't have good educational foundation, of course he's not going to read. That doesn't mean the child is dyslexic.
No, do you know why I say that? Because I have a 10-year-old, and when he was about 4 or 5, he would write the B facing the other way,
Yes.
the P would face the other way.
Yes.
And, the school were making me so nervous and scared that, we had to take him to London. And as far as I was concerned, they were saying he was dyslexic. And someone said, he's just an olodo, he doesn't want to read. But I was really worried because he's an intelligent boy and everything. But with a lot of help, because what they did was they isolated him in school, and then he had special teachers working with him.
Here?
Here.
Okay.
But now he's doing very well.
Well, the thing about it is that one of the tests that we do is that we actually screen for early dyslexia signs. So if your child had come to us at 4.5, and if he was doing the B's and the D's, we would have given you evidence-based information to say your child is risk, and not say, oh, because he wrote B and he wrote D.
He's dyslexic.
He might not be seeing it. He might need glasses.
That brings me to my own question. The question is this: if the support for an autistic child is from professional group, what can a parent do when the parent has identified that I have an autistic child? What can the parent also do to support the child at home, to support what you are doing as professionals?
The first thing a parent needs to do is educate themselves. That's the very first thing you need to do. Educate yourself on what you're hearing is supposedly wrong with your child. And, at the end of the day, I always say only a parent knows their child best. Doesn't matter how many years of experience in whatever field you're doing you think you have. When you first meet a child, the one person that knows that child best is their parent. So, if a parent can educate themselves on what they think is going on, that's the first step. And then the next step is to be very involved. So if your ABA consultant, your behavior analyst is saying, right, we need to do this program and you need to be working on this, find out what can you do as a parent. So, well, at the end of the day, I'm at home with the child, so how is that going to help me? That's what you need to know. You need to have programs implemented at home for you and just be very involved with the educational plan that they've come up with for your child.
On that note, we're going to take a short break, but we will be right back. Don't go anywhere. We have been learning so much about autism today. Now, you have a child that's autistic?
Yeah, but hers is PDD.
Okay, tell us what that means,
PDD.
PDD.
Pervasive Developmental Disorder.
What does that mean, pervasive developmental disorder?
Autism is a spectrum.
Yes.
Under autism, we have
Pervasive.
various kind of it. So PDD is one of them. NOS, unidentified.
Really?
It varies.
Okay.
My child is exhibiting the same character with another does not mean they are both PDD NOS.
Okay.
I got to know all this because I went for training.
Oh, that's great.
That's good.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Amazons. We're still talking about autism, and this is a very, very important issue, something that we really need to talk about. So we're going to have you guys here for another 10 minutes, I hope. Now, we need more information. You were telling me something while we were on break about a government policy?
Yes, we've had, there's a school health policy which is since 2007, which actually says that schools are required to check children physically and mentally. It was endorsed by UNICEF. So the issue is not we don't have policies. We don't have regulatory bodies.
Is it a national policy, sorry, or Lagos State policy?
It's a national policy.
Okay.
It's a national policy, right? So what we don't have people to monitor, and we don't have resource persons to carry out, to implement. So with this area, it's gone like with everything in education, just sidelined. So it's not as if it's not there, it's just that nobody's actually monitoring it. I think I kind of like looked at it, because I'm a lawyer, first and foremost, and I've,
so many parts.
Yes, I've been a member of Nigerian Bar since 1991.
Wow.
So when I decided to do this, I actually, okay, yes. So we're actually doing things, everything we're doing is actually embedded in the law.
Okay.
Oh, that's brilliant. Now, I need to ask, you're working with a few schools in Lagos, and Lagos is what? How many millions are we again in Lagos?
18, 19,
More than
21,
that.
21,
But like 30,
or in that
40 or
region.
something that ridiculous. So if it's anybody watching this program, any school, and they want to, work with you, what do they do?
They want to work with us, they go online, and they try to contact us. That's the first thing. And
Go
wherever
online?
yes, go online.
We have websites.
And
Tell us your website.
Do you have a
please.
physical address aside
Tell
from the
us.
website? You will tell us the website and then the physical
And
address.
the physical address, please
So
tell us.
the website is www.asktokes.com. And then, of course, the physical address is here in Ikeja. It's at 34 Allen Avenue. So that's for asktokes.com.
And then you have Nobulova Gradani, which is www.psychoedservices.com. And our physical clinic is at 24 Falajinodu Crescent, Bagada. So anybody that comes to either of us would be put into the disciplinary program assessment. And then from there, it has all the assessments done. And then we now decide what's the educational plan. for the
Okay,
child.
if you're watching and you want to talk to them, don't worry, go to our website, go online, but we'll have all the addresses there, so don't panic if you didn't get that. All right.
But one quick question. Have you recorded any standout special spot of brilliance, what's the word now, of any
Geniuses.
autistic child, geniuses, from any autistic child?
Yeah,
You
I
know.
met a little boy a couple of weeks ago who is showing amazing talents. Now, of course, his autism is holding him back in certain areas, particularly his communication. But with the right support, this child is going to make fantastic improvements to probably science and maths. So definitely there are some. At the moment, I'm not sure, I don't know any famous Nigerians who we would all know that are also autism spectrum, right? But that's mainly because it's not that they're not there, it's just that they don't have the diagnoses. So they're probably out there, but they don't know they're running around with autism spectrum disorder. So,
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you is autistic children tend to be aggressive, am I right?
sometimes.
So
It
I
varies.
say that because
I
I
say
know
no.
a few.
I say no.
no.
No, you know why? No, I know a few that I know that they can be very, very aggressive. I mean, one of them had to be moved because he was being abusive to the people around him.
Yeah.
So what causes that? Why do some of them go that way? Is it because the case is different?
A lot of the time, it stems from frustration, so an inability to communicate your needs and be understood. That can often lead to aggressive behavior. Also, if a child isn't receiving, again, if they're not receiving services and treatment early on, then they're kind of left to get away with things, and so it can escalate and become worse. But I've also worked with some children who have shown aggressive behaviors and who've then grown up and grown out of it.
Like every child?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I was
some
just about to say,
children are
we
like
know that, boys and, will be aggressive. So it really depends on the child. It varies a lot.
And I think with that, it's also parenting style as well. If you do have a child on the spectrum and, somebody wants to correct it, say, don't correct my child, you're just, and God will help me. I don't blame you, it's because I have a child that's like that. It's not like that. If your child is doing something wrong, it doesn't matter if the child is autistic, you train the child properly. If your child is autistic and is rolling on the floor here, is that proper? Because he's autistic, It doesn't have to do with the disorder.
So it's not an excuse for children to misbehave.
No, it's a
That's
parental
right.
style.
That's
The
right.
irony about it is that if you do have a child challenge, that's the more reason why you have to be harder with your parenting style.
Okay, so you're working with children in secondary schools now, primary
Yes,
schools,
yes.
secondary schools. What about at the university level?
Not yet.
Not yet, because it's also very unlikely that someone with severe autism symptoms is going to be in a university program. So if they are at university level, then they're managing their symptoms very well. So they're usually, able to function just fine, or or at least well enough to be able to work through the university program.
And another thing is that if you do have a child in university, most likely the child was not autistic. Because
Yeah.
autism is a developmental. You have some people coming to us and they say, oh, he got through school SAT, he was reading brilliantly, he was doing et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then all of a sudden when he got to Form 2, he became autistic. No, autism is a developmental disorder.
You would have had
If
it.
your child starts having challenges from 12, 13, 14, it's a
something
totally
else, yeah.
different thing.
Yeah.
Is there a likelihood that it could be hereditary?
Yes.
Yeah.
Genes. There's a gene factor. There's the fragile X, and
a
there's
chromosome?
Yes, no, not chromosome. Fragile X. It's a particular a gene factor which is known to produce children who obviously become on the autism spectrum.
Is it due to some kind of lifestyle? Something
No,
that
it's a
somebody
gene. It's a
does, or is
parental
it
gene.
something-
So at the moment, the
It's a
evidence
parental
is showing that there's a combination of genetics involved
and
and
environment.
environmental factors. So a child who has the genetics to say develop or has a propensity to develop autism may not ever develop autism if the environmental factors don't kick in. So environmental factors can be something like trauma at birth or falling ill in the early years.
'Cause
So
I was
those,
just gonna-
so those are some of
jaundice.
the environmental factors.
Yeah,
that
because
can
that's what
trigger it.
happened to a child next door. She fell ill and she
Then
was never the
suddenly,
same.
right, exactly. So that child was probably, or was either always going to develop autism spectrum, or it was, the illness or the trauma is what triggered it.
In terms of tests, is it possible for, like the sickle cell traits, is it possible, would
To
you
check for that
advise their
gene.
partners or people planning to get married to actually run?
Yes, what we do advise, we're working with a company in America. Gene testing is very expensive, but it's possible. We have children who the firstborn is autistic, the secondborn is autistic, and the thirdborn is okay. We
Yeah.
have twins, set of twins,
One
both
is-
autistic, one is not, one is not. What we normally advise parents to do is that, look, if you're going to have your child abroad, this is what we've established statistically. Most of the children who are exhibiting autism spectrum or present with autism spectrum, they normally were brought back to Nigeria before 6 weeks.
Yeah. So you're not staying there long
they're
enough.
not staying there long enough for the child's brain to stabilize. So basically from the birth to the
travel.
air,
Is it the
to
compression?
the whole,
Really?
yes.
Oh my
Most of the
goodness.
children that we have on our list, statistically, they were all brought back.
This
At least
is
the
a
ones
very
from
useful
abroad.
information.
Yes.
And a very scary one as
Yes.
well.
6 weeks.
It doesn't mean that that's what's
It doesn't
gonna
mean that.
cause
That's
the
not what.
autism.
But what
It's
we
just
are
a
saying is that
correlation.
if you do go and have a child abroad,
Stay
please
past 6
stay-
weeks.
Yes, at least
Yeah.
stay
3
beyond.
months.
No, well,
Absolutely.
No, baby, wait. Stay beyond.
stay
6
beyond
weeks.
6 weeks.
Wow.
Okay.
Beyond 6 weeks, because you will have your 6-week developmental check anyway.
Anyway, yes.
Some people don't wait for it.
Okay.
They come back at 3 weeks. They come back at
Okay,
4 weeks.
we need to
And
round
then
up.
some
We need
travel to two different countries.
I
They go
know.
to
Here, there.
America, to London, and
Okay, we need to round up. But before we do, what can you expect for an autistic child?
the best.
In the future, you say, oh, my child is going to university, is going to be a professional, it's the very same thing?
You can. Every child definitely has the potential to reach their fullest. It may not be university education for every child because it's not for every typical child.
True.
So,
But there's nothing stopping.
you do need to aim for the absolute highest. Because only when you aim for that does your child have the chance to reach that level.
You can have an autistic child and he can read music. He can read computer studies. There's somebody at the moment, she does animation. I mean, we have a child at the moment. Computers, there's nobody here, I can bet you, nobody here can beat that guy. So what we've decided to do is that once he's 8, we're going to start animation. he's going to be making his own cartoons.
Great. On that note, which is a very happy note, we are going to say thank you very much for being part of our show. We are so happy that you could be part of this show. You have taught us so much. I'm happy. I mean, I don't know how to express my joy. I'm serious because this is something that, you know, we all say, I'm passionate about this, I want to do something, but we end up not doing anything.
Right.
And you have two women who are doing so much. I'm grateful. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
We're really
and
honored.
thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Break.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. But is your daughter in school as we speak?
No,
Wow.
I take her up myself because I have
You
to
mean
go
you're teaching her from home?
Yeah.
She deserves a round of applause for that.
Welcome back to the Amazons, and we're still talking about autism, a developmental disorder. We have a parent in the house to talk to us. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mrs. Oladile Yusuf Oju. You're welcome. Thanks for coming. Please sit. Thank you so much for being on the program with us. We have been learning so much about autism today. Now, you have a child that's autistic?
Yeah, but hers is PDD.
Okay, tell us what that means,
PDD.
PDD.
Pervasive Developmental Disorder.
What does that mean, pervasive developmental disorder?
Autism is a spectrum.
Yes,
Under autism, we have
perversive.
various kind of it. So PDD is one of them. NOS, unidentified. It varies. My child is exhibiting the same character with another does not mean they are both PDD NOS. I got to know all this because I went for training.
Oh, that's great.
That's good.
How old is your daughter?
She's fine. She's 7. Yeah.
So how did you discover that she probably had
4 million
some
questions.
of this
Okay.
some of these traits?
Right. Well, initially, I saw her that she wants to be isolated. She doesn't want to interact with anybody, including her siblings. She wants to be on her own. There's this particular program, Barney and Friends. She enjoys it a lot. So we probably felt that's our world. She wants to be alone. She wants to watch Barney from morning till night, even if she has not eaten. Initially, I didn't see it as a problem until she was 2+. When she was 2+, of course, she's supposed to be talking. So when she was not talking, that was when I knew that something was wrong. So I had to intervene there.
What did you do? What exactly did you do?
I had to look it up on the internet. You know, probably because I was red, I just put all the characters I saw in her, and I came up with autism. Under it, I saw PDD. But I wasn't really sure what all that means. So I had to seek a support group. That was where Gradini Nobelvala came in.
Okay.
Nobelova.
So, as a mother with an autistic child, tell me, what are the things that you've learned, the do's
Autistic,
and the
no. PDD, NOS.
PDD, NOS. So, what are the things that you've learned to do and not do, the do's and don'ts, basically?
I've actually learned that you have to diagnose if actually they have these traits.
That's the
You don't
first
just,
step.
yeah, that's the do's, one of the do's there. Then the don't. You don't let them be on their own world. You have to let them socialize. Give them a sense of belonging. Let them know that they are like others. Don't let them have their way.
Is it something that you enforce or
No, you have to be
coerce?
firm. You coerce. You kind of correlate with them, communicate. with them. With time, you learn to know what your child wants, even if they are not talking.
True.
So you get to know what they want. And then you say to her, no, 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 no. You don't do that.
Are you a working mother?
Initially, I was.
Did you have to stop because of her?
I just have to stop.
You know the reason why I asked that question? It still falls back to the fact that in Nigeria, we just need this support group for people like this. Because abroad, again, I keep talking about it because I spent a lot of years there. You can actually stop working and you're even expected to leave work and create time to be with these children because they're very, very demanding children.
Yeah.
Am I right?
They are.
Very, very demanding.
Very,
And sometimes
very.
they can be very difficult.
But interesting to be with.
Yeah,
Very
well,
sure.
Yeah,
I mean-
to some extent.
to some extent.
Yeah.
So
But is it a challenge? How is it challenging to raise an autistic child
It's quite
or a child with
challenging. Quite
PhD?
challenging. The parent alone can do it.
really,
You can't do it alone. You need the society, you need the government to come in. You can't do it alone. You can't possibly do it alone.
And with your, what's your support? Who is your support?
Who is my support?
God.
First and foremost, God.
Thank God for God.
Then I still take it back to Helen or Shikoya's group.
What a family.
Family, oof. To some extent they are, but most of them don't really understand what it's all about. Some of them term it to be spiritual in one aspect. Except when you are that kind of person that is able to explain things to them. These are way things are happening. I got this child the normal way, I got the others. So, okay, do you want to talk about witches and wizards possessing her? Oh my God. That's ridiculous. So, probably because I know all these things, I was able to convince some of them and not all.
Now, you had to quit your job to focus on taking care of your child.
Yes.
How hard has that been on your finances?
That has been very hard financially. Financially, very, very hard. Most of the schools, in quotes, that has them, that takes care of them, very exorbitant. So how do you do that?
But is your daughter in school as we speak?
No,
Wow.
I take her up myself because I have
You mean
to
you're
focus.
teaching her from home?
Yeah.
She deserves a
You're
round of applause
homeschooling?
for that.
So you are homeschooling your child because of this condition?
Exorbitant
Yeah,
school
because
fees.
of this condition, yeah. One.
And
But
then-
most of the schools I took her to, they're not accepting her because they don't have the facilities. They don't have special teachers. They don't have the facilities on ground. So they can't cope with her. I can't really blame them. It's so expensive to equip such schools. So that is where I'm pleading with the government that they should come in and help out. These children should not be made to be isolated children. They shouldn't be seen as one. They shouldn't be called one.
I can see how painful this is.
It is.
And you know what? Trust me. I know things might look really hard now, but you found one group, you will find so many more. And you will find support. Your daughter will get the best education that she deserves, and she will reach her full potential. Well done, madam. Well done. Well done. Your other children, how many children
Yeah,
do you
okay, I
have?
have 3 of them. She's the middle child.
And the
I
other
have 2
two?
boys, and she's the girl.
She's the girl.
Yeah.
Do they understand what's going on?
They do.
Great.
Very well.
And are they supportive?
Very, very well.
When you look at your daughter and you look how far you've come with her, what do
Tears
you
of joy
feel
sometimes.
inside of you?
Pain sometimes. Frustrating sometimes. But basically, he said in all things, we should give him thanks.
Yes, we should. Yes, we should.
That's it.
I mean, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Thank you
you
so
so
much for coming here. Thank you. You deserve an award just for being, just for all the things that you're going through and the fact that you're studying farm and you're here today, educating other people. Thank you so much for being part of our program. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching Amazons, and we're talking about autism. And wow, I am so emotional right now.
I'm just speechless.
I can't explain
Bimbo.
it. Dolako, what do you think?
We've been preaching it. I think we're just going to continue to preach it. That it's time, honestly, the government start looking into things like this and making provision. I think there was one of the show we did one time, and I was talking about milk tickets in the UK, where you at least you know that eggs, vegetables, and milk are free for a child till 5. But sometimes it still amazes me that till today in Nigeria, you have a child, the child is yours, and whatever happens to you, it's your business, and there's no support, no group. You can't. I mean, look at the poor mother had to give up her job to look after her child.
A child has to have free education from when they are young until I think about must have primary school free education. That is what it was in those days. Even in some parts of Nigeria, there was what you call the free education up until secondary school. I don't know where all that has gone. And then you now have special needs children, families who need support, children who need support. Who knows what autistic children can grow up to be tomorrow? We heard our guest earlier on who said they have one who is a computer whiz-kid as young as he is. And if you begin to kill the potential and the talent of this young one, how do we begin to have a future and tomorrow? It's so sad that basic things that government should provide, they just don't think about it. I'm not sure they even understand what autism is themselves.
Thank you, guys. We've been talking about autism today, and as you can see, I'm in a very emotional state because children, we should protect our children. Every child deserves to be protected. And a child with developmental issues should be protected more. We've spoken to specialists. They've told us a few things. We've learned a lot today. Please, for everyone out there, please, go do the screening. Because once you find out if there's anything wrong, you can start treatment immediately. Please, please go do the screening. And for a lot of us, we do this. We go outside to go and have our children. Please, wait until after the 6-week marks before bringing your child back. There are things that we can stop, things that we can make sure doesn't happen. Let's make sure it doesn't happen. Change lives, please. Thank you for watching.